I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Glad to be here and glad to have you along. Today, I've got a great program. I've got a colleague with me co-hosting Sidekick for a Day, W.D. Foster Graham. Brother W.D., good to see you. I don't see you. You've got your symbol up, but if you are able, turn your camera on and we'll make the conversation roll. I do see Brother Jay Most. How you doing, man? What's going on?
I am doing very, very well, and thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. And also, I know that Alvina is here. She's going to be connecting momentarily, getting her device situations worked out. But let me start by, excuse me, saying that you and Alvina are doing some wonderful work with a project called Command Steppers is one, and also a project called Women Unite to Win. And it's a women's appreciation luncheon. You're the president of the Minnesota chapter of the National Empowerment Group Incorporated. And you do things supporting national performing artists. You do events and marketing promotions, and you work in community. So always good to talk to you. But the whole thing you do with stepping is phenomenal. Tell me about that, first of all, and we'll go from there.
Well, back in 2007, I made a song called Ready to Do This. And my dad recorded back in the days. And anyway, I did high school choir and some of that stuff, but I always did want to make a record or two. And so met a guy here in Chaska who gave me a beat. I wrote to it, came out. The song was what it was. But then I took it to Milwaukee with because I'm born and raised in Milwaukee, and I've been living here since 93, 94. I graduated from St. Cloud State. So he said, man, they got this new school stepping thing called Chicago 8-count stepping. Now, old schoolers, they bop, they jitterbug, they two-step, they freestyle. But the last 30 years, the reason stepping, couples dance, Chicago style has swept the country because of this 8-count technique that has the ladies more showcased with turns and moves, and the guys aren't high stepping on the ladies so much. And the lead follow process is very, very exact because the 8-count has these pauses where the lady can receive the signals and she knows exactly what the guy wants. So now she doesn't have to have a partner. She can dance with anybody in the country with this 8-count. And he said, they got this new school thing coming on, man. If you learn how to do this with this song, you might do okay. It don't matter how old you get with stepping. I said, wow, really? And so that's what happened. I brought the song back to Q-Bear. Q-Bear said, man, you got one. And they played it on Sunny Day, and Q-Bear played it on KMOJ back in 07. And that thing just went and went and went. And ever since then, I've been making grown and sexy steppers music. And because I taught school in real life, got my degree in special ed from St. Cloud, I decided that the instruction needed a facelift here. And as I learned the dance from some of my peers in Milwaukee, I started classes here in 09, and we never looked back. And we've ended up teaching over 350 people or community participants here in the Twin Cities, St. Paul service area here. We've taught over 350, and even a few of the new classes that are out there, they've all come from Command Steppers and my process and curriculum.
That's amazing. And stepping is such an art. I should have asked you earlier if you've got videos on that you could share, because I think it's just like watching steppers dance is a thing of beauty.
Well, I was hoping, Mr. McFarlane, and sorry for interrupting. I was hoping that this would be a part 1 to our part 2, because of the Steppers Bash and all of the phenomenal contests we've had over the years, just to put together a show highlighting that in its own.
I would love to do it.
Make our community and anybody in the nation very, very, very excited. Because that's a lot that you would want to put into a 30-minute show, because we've been doing it so long. And thank you for mentioning that, because that would be great.
So what's coming? Let's plan to do that, because I think I would love to do a show that, uh, show different styles, different, contests, maybe clips of different programs. But then maybe you could also help me hook up with people that have been champions, recognized as champions from around the country,
Oh yeah,
and that way we get their take on how they came to be stepping
no
and what
problem.
stepping means as a cultural phenomenon.
Some of them are actually coming. Some of the real champions are competing in our contest because this is our first year
Mhm.
doing an advanced category Chicago style steppers contest and $5,000. So shout out to E-Flow Entertainment and Stop In Gas Station, African American Black business owner who owns a gas station right there on the border of Fridley and Columbia Heights on 54th and University. But he's sponsoring the first place prize of 3,500, and that's a big pot.
Yeah,
So
that's huge.
they're coming up here for that money, man, and so some of those champions will be glad because they've won first place in Chicago and all over the country. They'll be glad to get on the show.
Your partner in this is Alvina Richberg. She's been involved with Command Steppers as a participant for the past 10 years and as a co-lead instructor, teaching couples dancing and 8-count stepping and line dance for the past 7 years. She's been an outstanding and committed role model and leader for women in the organization by demonstrating loyalty and high integrity while promoting a positive and welcoming atmosphere for all of the members. She performs administrative tasks for the organization and assumes larger responsibilities of coordinating and organizing the group's social gatherings and out-of-town trips, etc. So she is trying to get connected with us in a second here. We'll try to get her online here. What is the event coming up? You got some major events on the calendar. Tell me what's going to be happening.
Well, first of all, I just want to say real quick before she gets on, Alvina is wonderful. And I can't express how much of an asset and how much of a community benefit and asset she's been to Command Steppers, J-Most Music, National Empowerment Group. She's great. And but the event is our 14th annual. We started off the Mall of America Minnesota Steppers All-Star Bash. We just last 2 years recently changed our name. We just took the Mall of America off. Now, let me say this. Mall of America never asked us to release the name. From the very beginning, the Mall of America never told us that we couldn't tag our event that. Once they realized all the people that were coming from all over the country, they let us keep the name. There's been people coming in using the Mall of America's name, and the marketing department did a cease and desist. They never did that with us. It's just that once we approached them for support, at that point, they were saying we needed a media connection or a media partner.
Mm-hmm.
And before this time, we hadn't known you at this point. And so they didn't really want us to, because see, here's what we want is to take all of this talent, and they got all of those exhibitions in the tundra, and our people, our dance needs to exhibit in that tundra for the entire state and the entire world to see. And so we just started going with the Minnesota Steppers. We wanted to give Minnesota a little bit more of a profile nationally. So we're the Minnesota Steppers All-Star Bash. It's the 14th year, and we've always been a spectator event. We are a contest event, and we're known for our ethical contests that we have.
There's Alvina. There she was for a second. Get the sound working. But go ahead.
Where our judges sit around the perimeter of the floor, and they score right there, just boom, right there in everyone's face after each category. We ask them to put up their scores. And people really like that because now the judges, even if they have a feeling to sway their score, they can't do it too bad. They just can't because everybody's watching it at the same time. It's like, hey, there's no way that that's a 6. You know that that's an 8. There's no way that that's a 10. You know that's a 6, So with that, and then most recently, because see, the the other tagline to this is what made it great, Mr. McFarlane, is that this contest is called the Y'all Can't Beat Us Steppers Contest. And that came from the very first year they talked about Minnesota not being able to step. So I said, you know what? We're going to challenge the whole country. And it was a way to get everybody to come to Minnesota. So I always had couples from Minnesota challenge couples from all over the country. And so just the last 4 years,
And how did Minnesotans do in that
they did very,
challenge?
very well.
Okay.
They've won a lot. It's just that we tapped out on the couples. After they compete 2-3 years, they don't want to keep doing it.
Right.
And we don't have that much talent. So I had
Yeah.
to open it up to all dance forms. So instead of just the Chicago style, we did couples dance contest. And now we got ballroom competing, KC two-step, swing, Philly bop. We have all of those different techniques competing, and that's what makes it great. Now our room is filled with all kinds of dance forms. Super, super, super fun, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do another show where we capture some of your video from past events, or if there's videos from other festivals or contests around the country, that'd be great. And I'd love to interview steppers about their experience as steppers. Now, so I'm presuming, J. Most, that you must be a stepper, or you got to be the grand stepper, right? I know Alvina is an athlete and apparently a stepper as well, right? Alvina, how you doing?
Yes, I have been stepping since 2012, and I learned mostly, probably 98% of what I know. I learned from Jay Most. He's an awesome instructor, teacher, coach. He's just a really great person to learn this dance from. If anybody out there is wanting to learn, please come to Command Steppers classes. And I started teaching maybe about 7 years ago, I think. So it's been a fun ride.
What do you love about it? What do you love about stepping? Maybe the question's about dance. I know you as an ice skater, right? Right?
Well, no, I don't. My
No?
niece, my niece,
That's your
ice
niece.
skate.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
brown
okay.
body. Um, I guess with the stepping, I think it's just a great social outlet. It's a way to just forget about your problems and socialize with other people that are also interested in, and then listening to your favorite music. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And then also the exercise component, just releasing stress and increasing the flow of endorphins. It just raises your whole mood and it makes you feel good, for that 2 hour class once a week or twice a week, however often you come. So I have to
J-Most,
say that's
yeah, go ahead. Well, J-Most, what is the music? What is the dance? What does the stepping mean to you personally as a participant? When you are stepping, what are you feeling? What are you experiencing when everything is lining up just exactly the right way?
I'm a music person. It's in my blood. It's in everything I do. I can't not or stop thinking about music. So I've always admired watching couples dancers, and I don't care if it's polka, I don't care what it is, salsa. I love it. The synchronization and the showmanship or the show personship of it all. And I never thought I would learn how to do it. Um, I never had a desire until I saw the 8 count. So what does it do for me? It really, I used to be a hooper, man. I played basketball, and this literally took my mind off of missing basketball because of my temporary hips that I have, artificial hips. I'm sorry, I got new hips. I can't play ball anymore. And man, when I started doing this, just the soul of it all, just the connection of dancing with another person, and to be able to be the lead. The guy is the lead and she's the follow. To have this choreography and to have enough moves and enough understanding of the process in your mind to where it's instinctual and it's impulse, and you can just make your choreography design itself to the music that you're listening to. It's super, super dope. And we can teach anybody in the world. It doesn't matter the disability. It doesn't matter the ethnicity. It doesn't matter what culture. We've seen it all and have had it all. And my background is in special ed anyway, and I'm from the hood, so I learned suburban and urban. So we can teach anyone this thing. So I don't want anybody to say, "Oh, I got 2 left feet" and all of those little one-liners.
Mhm.
Anybody can learn it. Anybody can learn it, and it's a beautiful thing.
So what does it cost? Talk about the event coming up again, the dates and times, and what's involved in getting.
I'm gonna let Alvina talk about it and maybe hit us with the line dance information since she just got on, because
Sure.
I did some answers on it.
So our event, the dates that we have for our event are June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The Minnesota Steppers and Line Dancers All-Star Bash is at the Hilton Hotel out in Bloomington. The airport Mall of America Hilton, not the one at the other end by France, but the one closer to the airport. The doors open each night at 7. We got weekend passes available for all the events. For the Steppers Bash, those are the nightly events: Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday morning / afternoon we have a farewell brunch from 10 until about 2, and that's when the adults can pretend that they're kids. We play musical chairs for money, and it's just crazy. You should see how these grown folks are just sliding across the floor to get a little bit of money with our musical chairs.
Pushing each other out of the chair.
It's hilarious.
It's competitive,
Mhm.
But the Hilton Hotel, Mr. McFarlane, has an inventory of about 278 rooms. Our room block has half of that inventory. By the time our event starts, we've taken up 2/3 of that inventory.
So that many people are going to come.
And most people do 2 to 3 to a room or 3 to 4 to a room.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So that 2/3 is multiplied by at least 2 to 3. We usually do 30. We have 31 tables. When I first started, we averaged 500 people, and then when the groups kind of split up and everybody opens their own business, it kind of goes down. We're back up to about 350 last year. We saved it after a postponement, brought it back for COVID, and we didn't expect to do about 300 last year. Off the chains.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in mask. It was all COVID cautious, but it was off the chains. And so just people coming here, they love Minnesota. When we moved this thing from March because of the pandemic to June, now we got Sacramento coming, Los Angeles, Mississippi, New Orleans, Charlotte. They want to come to Minnesota now, man. And March, our first 11 years, March was tough, and we pulled it off because we're a contest event. But now it's in June. It is off the chain. I'm just keeping it real with you. The parts of the United States that never would service us, the West Coast and down south, they're coming. They want that Mall of America. They want that Prince Paisley Park mansion. They want to see that stuff. They want to be in Minnesota for June, and that's
people want to also look at the George Floyd, area, right? That's on the whole world's mind right now.
Yeah,
and yeah.
All of those 3 monumental places are on our flyer, and they are signing up for all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would be interested, J. Most and Alvina, in doing more interviews with you as we approach the June event. I'd love to, I said on one show, talk about the show what stepping is and listen to it. Let's make sure we get the clearances for the music, because we want to make sure that the YouTube and Facebook have cleared any music that's played. That's number one. So that takes a little time. But then also I would like to interview some of the people that have signed up that are coming from Mississippi or from the West Coast or East Coast. So I want to get a feeling for how this whole notion of the beauty of this art the art of stepping unfolds in different markets among our people. Go ahead, Alvina. You were going to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say we always could use J Mo's music. We don't have to worry about getting permission to dance and step to his music on your
That
show.
that would be awesome. We can use that.
He's
Yeah.
got some really nice stepping music. So
Okay. Cool.
And
Let's do
and when
it.
we do it, remember we have couples dance contest, which is those other dance floors I explained. We also have the group line dancing, which is to the left, to the left, to the right, to the right. So that's a whole nother dance culture, man. That's crazy. It's more of them than it is stepping. So you got to tie all of that in. And then just Chicago itself feels like they are just the top of the world of stepping. So when you talk Chicago style, they have their own deal. When you go to when you go to Philadelphia or New Jersey or New York, they hand dance. So they feel like they have the deal. So when you go to Kansas City, they
What is hand dancing? What does that mean?
it's a
Hold
different
hands.
kind of couples dance where they actually do more dancing and it's just the more independent dancing when you detach from the lady.
Okay.
Where Chicago stays attached, but it's a lot of footwork. It's a lot of what James Brown does. Okay, and the 8 count brought in all these upper level turns that salsa does. Now us as a culture, as a Black community, now we actually are able to do these highly complex moves in our stepping, and that's why the 8 count swept the country. So, and then of course we can't forget our women's luncheon where that's a Minnesota local event, and that's a show of its own as well.
Listen, I want to thank you guys for what you're doing, and thank you for being here to talk about it on this show. I'm going to keep this conversation going down the road. W.D. Foster, you're hanging out with me. Thanks for making this show happen. Any questions or comments you have of our guests?
Well, it definitely was a pleasure to hear you talk about stepping because I attended last year's Women United to Win Luncheon. And when I saw the steppers come in, I was like, wow, this I need to see more of. But if you have maybe a couple minutes, could you touch on the Women United to Win Luncheon? Since we believe in, giving people their flowers while they're here.
Go ahead, Alvina, start off.
yes, so this is our 14th annual Women's Appreciation Luncheon. It's under our tag Women Unite to Win. I do have on the t-shirt today, so you can see that. We have 10 phenomenal women that we're going to be honoring this year. If I have time, can I just name them off for you?
Sure.
Okay.
This is our civil unrest edition, and so we're super glad, Mr. McFarlane, that you are a part of this. I just had the biggest smile when she said that you wanted to do media partner with us because this year here is very special. I saw the women put in real work these last couple of years, and I'm super proud of our community, our women's community. And this is a women serving agency. This is when me and Dr. Wendy put this agency together. I wanted to make sure from my grandmother, I wanted to make sure Minnesota women got their props, not for being CEOs of agencies. I wanted regular, organic, grassroots women to get their flowers. And that's what we've been doing for 14 years with this organization and this luncheon.
So our honorees this year, we have Nikema Levy Armstrong, Executive Director, Wayfinder Foundation, activist, civil rights attorney.
Let's just name the names.
Okay. Valerie Castile, Demonica Fly, Dorothy Barnes Griswold, Angela Harrelson, Dr. Ella Gates Mahmood, Maria Perry, Kelly Robinson, Leslie E. Redmond, Eliza Wesley, and we have a regional honoree from Des Moines, Iowa. Her name is Joanne Hughes.
That's great. Wonderful. Those are all towering leader, warrior women in our community. So absolutely deserve any roses and credit and appreciation that we can bestow upon them. I want to thank you again, both for being here, and what our commitment is to keep talking about this all the way through, help you build sales and build awareness and build engagement this is a good idea. We have to, Alvina, celebrate ourselves, celebrate each other,
Absolutely.
be in charge of our own narrative, create a record of who we are, where we've come from, and be responsible for knowing that our decisions and our relationships are the mechanism through which we write the future. We're here to build a future in which we win. And I think this is one of the cultural iconic venues for achieving that goal. Thank you both, and we'll see you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep this going.
Thank you.
WD, thank you for putting this together for me as well.
My pleasure,
Thank
Al.
you so much. We appreciate it.
We're going to move the conversation to our next guest, and it's kind of really appropriate, consistent, because she's also focused on elevating the status of women and also fixing the culture at large. My guest is Tawanna Black, and Tawanna Black is the leader at the Center for Economic Inclusion, an organization that recently announced it was recipient of a $5 million investment or grant from JP Morgan Chase, their accelerator fund for Black and Latina women-owned businesses. You've got a lot going on, Tawanna. Good to see you again. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on today, Mr. McFarlane. It's great to see you.
Please call me Al, and thank you for being on. Thank you for all that you're doing. Here's what I want to get in the next half an hour for this program, Tawanna. We'll just throw it out and we can take it piece by piece. And this is all unscripted, so we kind of flow with the spirit, and whatever evolves as an item of interest or passion will flow with that. That's fine. So you can change the direction of the conversation when you want to, and so can I. But I want to introduce to our viewers and listeners, both here and around the country. We're streaming at Black Press USA on their Facebook page, as well as the Inside News Facebook page. Introduce the center. Tell about, what is the center? What do you do? Why it matters, and how people can engage and support and benefit from the work that you do at the center. And you've got some specific projects that you want to highlight. They include Project Vanguard. So let's spend some time focusing on what that is, the vision, the mission, the opportunity. And you do what's called indicators research. I want to explain that. What does it mean to do research? That's really important because as a community, research has generally been used against us. We've been studied, but never the benefit or beneficiary of the studying. And so we, I think with people of your generation in particular, who have trained in the art of business and governance, are able to use the tools of research and of marketing and of metrics in ways that advance our story, our interest, and our possibilities. So indicators research, what is it, and why it matters. And then you've got some events coming up. You're going to be doing a tour to Alabama, I think, in the summer. There's an event called the Powering Inclusion Summit. I want to know what that's all about. So let's start with Center for Economic Inclusion 101. Introduce the organization, the concept, and the mission.
Awesome. Absolutely. I'll do that. So the Center for Economic Inclusion, we are just about to celebrate our 5th anniversary coming up here at the end of the year. And the organization is a bit of a combination. We are a think tank, a do tank, or an action tank, and a consultancy. And our mission is about closing racial wealth gaps and building regional economies that truly work for everyone by that work. And our focus area is really public and private sector employers who are typically about mid-range in size. We started here with a focus, really hyperly focused on Minneapolis, St. Paul, and our regional economy. And since then, over the last 5 years, we've expanded that to serve regions across, so certainly the state of Minnesota, but then also across the country. And we really focus on both those government agencies, city and county governments, as well as state government agencies, but then also companies that could be larger corporations, but also those mid-sized businesses who really have an opportunity to impact our economy, but who, for one reason or another, have still had racism deeply embedded in their talent practices, their workplaces, their workplace culture, their procurement policies and practices, their philanthropy, their the way that they serve their marketplaces, their products and services. And we come inside and really help them start to think differently about the way that they work inside communities, about their workplace culture, about their relationships inside communities and with one another inside their organizations, about power and how power is held, who has access to power, what knowledge is shared, how that knowledge is exchanged, how resources flow in order to drive systems change, and what it takes to start to deeply disrupt and dismantle systemic racism in order to build an economy that truly works for everyone, and how to not only just create a new racial equity program, but how to truly transform those organizations such that not only does the business start to work for everyone, or the government agency or the workforce development program or a new business development or housing program start to help everyone, but so it ultimately impacts the entire economy. And we can show in data that racial equity actually benefits everyone. And so we help to drive that through the data so that that economic imperative ultimately drives sustained action.
I mentioned that you've got a new grant from Chase. Tell us about that? What's happening with that?
Absolutely. So JP Morgan Chase has had a competition for the last 3 years called Advancing Cities, where they've had a competition for cities to compete and win an award. Minneapolis-St. Paul has actually won this award now. We're the second winners last year. A housing organization and Hope Community won for a housing strategy. And this year we partnered here locally with Fearless Commerce and the Activate Network and NAO partners to propose a strategy called Project Vanguard, where together we are working to increase the number of Black and Latina women-owned businesses who are really operating at scale. So these are businesses in our community who are operating typically in a B2B fashion. So they're doing business with other businesses. And we want to see that number grow such that these businesses become known as the job creators in our communities. They become known as the wealth creators in our communities. And what we'll be doing specifically is providing training and support so those businesses become certified to do business with other corporations and government agencies through Certified Access and Fearless Commerce. We'll be providing them with supports through NAO partners to get whether they need a business, a location such that they might be purchasing that location, they might be leasing it, but they may need some supports to know, how do I know when brick and mortar, having an actual facility, is right for me? And how do I make sure I get the right facility? And that if I'm going to purchase it, I do so in a way that's really going to help me as the owner and my family build wealth. So they'll receive some supports in that way. They'll receive support from the Center for Economic Inclusion in navigating those contracts with corporations, where we're working to drive accountability among the corporate community and government agencies for growing that supply chain diversity in ways that are really significant and not just transactional. And then they'll, also receive lending capitals. And so we'll be offering both forgivable loans, revenue-based financing, which means that instead of the loan being secured by collateral, we actually invest based on those predictable monthly revenues. So if you have a contract with a company, you can know that, okay, I think I'm going to bring in $10,000 a month. So why don't we base it on about that much instead of having to have a building or something else to secure it?
Right.
And then also having equity investment, something that also isn't typically available in large supply in our community. So we'll have those 3 new products available in our marketplace really for this population. And our hope is that while JP Morgan Chase has funded it for Black and Latina women, that this gives us a chance to grow this so that other Black-owned businesses in our community, and we've already had some funders expressing interest, this gives us a chance to also grow this type of funding so that we can expand it for other populations.
Your press release says you're doing this is a $25 million project, and
that's our goal, is to raise a fund of $25 million. So we're out raising money right
now.
The
$5 million puts you in that direction, right? Gets you going. How hard is it going to be to raise that kind of money? What do you think?
certainly it's ambitious, but you have to be ambitious. You have to go out and declare it. And this is a vision that we've been given, and we believe it's real. And certainly, you know, you resonated when I talked about that revenue-based financing, because you've been in business for a long time. You know that, you know, recurring revenues makes more sense than saying, okay, go out and wait till you have a lot of collateral. Well, I could have that if I was able to secure the funds I need to grow and innovate in my business. And frankly, what we've said to funders, not just traditional philanthropy, but others, is this is also repairing historic harm. And so we have to look at wealth that has been extracted out of our communities, not only saying, okay, where are our communities today? And for so long, I think foundations, and you know, I came from having led a funder collaborative for 5 years before I started the Center for Economic Inclusion. For so long, we've looked and simply said, well, what's the capacity today? Oh, these businesses don't have what their white peer businesses have. Well, there's a reason for that. And so we really come at this from a data perspective, and that requires looking at the historical analysis as well as where we are today and what the economic imperative is, and really positioning our businesses to be job creators. And the data all shows, whether it's McKinsey data, Brookings data, you name it, not just ours, our economy is riding on our ability as a region and a state to invest in our people and business growth. We won't solve this through a solely corporate solution. We have to focus on Black and Brown communities as job creators. So I think it's ambitious, but it's not impossible at all, because the math shows this is the best opportunity for all communities.
So it's about wealth creation and understanding and supporting what they call generational wealth, right?
Absolutely.
Setting our communities, our families on a path to compound wealth over generations, each generation facilitating and launching the next into innovative opportunity for expanding wealth, and ultimately allowing our people to know and feel ownership of our portion of the economy, that we are not simply consumers, but we are also producers, and that we enjoy the benefit of being effective producers. That we come to know that even within and among our own community, there's significant amounts of money flowing. The question is, how do we capture and amplify those revenue streams in ways that deliver what's the right word, exponential benefit to us in the community, rather than having all of that commercial activity operate to the benefit of other people and not us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Our data shows right now, we have predicted putting back in capital into these businesses of starting out with $1.5 million in lending capital. And with that, coupled with the training, we should be able to create 150 family sustaining jobs, meaning jobs that are paying over $18 an hour into these businesses. Well, those are dollars that can return back into our community, back into our economy, and then produce additional jobs, right? That's significant resources back into our economy. That's not small. And when we look at the significant pay equity gaps that exist in most large corporations and frankly, even government jobs, that's meaningful, right? If we can start to see those dollars churn inside our Black communities in the same way that we see dollars churning in our peers, in our Asian communities, in our white communities, in our Latino communities, we can see more businesses created, more sustainable economic prosperity, and not just the business creation, but we also see then our families be more stable. We see housing creation continuing. We see the 9,000 Equities campaign that's at Build Wealth Minnesota. We see that be sustainable, right, and prosperous as home ownership numbers start to increase. And so we see this as not just a bet, and we certainly don't see it as a risk. In fact, the data shows that investing in our businesses is even more secure than investing in the traditional white-owned business. But we have to elevate that narrative by using the data.
You've been hiring, bringing on board some wonderful and talented people. I've been trying to make sure that I watch out for press releases you send out and present those excellent professionals. But take a minute to talk about your team. I'm impressed with the people that you've attracted to join you on this mission. Give them some sunshine right now, if you would.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I've heard this sentiment quite a bit over the last few months, actually. So at 5 years old, our team today is just at about 22 people. We actually, I think, have about 8 positions open right now. So we're doing quite a bit of growth in this season, and that is representative of all of the impact that we're working to make. And when I say my team, I have to say the team is made up not only of the people who work full time at the Center for Economic Inclusion, but also of our board of directors. And it's made up of the people who support and invest in the center and who help us tell our story. So I started 5 years ago and told people who said they believed in the center that it would take a lot of people all over the region and the country putting their fingerprints on the mission and vision of the Center for Economic Inclusion. And I go to bed every night and thank God for every one of the people who've done that, including you. So a big thank you to a lot of people who've done that. And I have to say a big thank you to the team being my family, first and foremost, who are a part of that team. My husband does all kinds of strategy work and spreadsheets for us for free. So they're chief among the team. I start with them, but I would start with folks who've been with us the longest. Tony Toliver is our longest standing employee who's been with us, predates the center actually, and is our vice president of external affairs, and has been just
Tony and I go back a dozen years. So tell Tony hello. Yeah,
a great leader, and is continuing to lead and expand the work with us. Andrea Firstan is our vice president of innovation, policy, and research, and has also been with us now going on almost 4 years. And the two anchor different parts of our business and work. Suzanne Kelly, you might know, as chief of staff at the organization, and has just breathed a ton of innovation and partnership and leadership into the work. I never knew how much I needed a chief of staff until we brought one in who was so experienced and anchored into having done that role in other places and bringing and breathing life into every part of our organization. And then we've got a breadth of leaders. I won't name all the names because, of course, I'll forget one with 22 people inside the organization. But we've got leaders in public policy. We recently recruited someone from the Senate who is leading in that public policy arm, which is a huge part of our work and helps us to drive state policy. This year, we're advocating for $10 million, which would anchor this fund and help us expand it quickly across the state, as well as expand the work we've done in North Minneapolis into 5 other cities across the state around Black male employment. And so Isaac is leading us in those spaces and is doing a tremendous amount of work for us. And lots of folks comment about his prior work in the Senate and how he's transferring that work now with us in public policy. And is just doing tremendous work in those spaces. Excuse me. We also have, I have to say, our admin team. I think your admins are the folks who keep everybody out of trouble and keep us all aligned and on the straight and narrow. And we've got a team of 5 admin assistants who are really the backbone of the Center for Economic Inclusion, who everyone knows because they're the front door of the Center for Economic Inclusion. So I have to shout them out. We have an amazing team of consultants who are also on the front lines of our work and keep us going, particularly in working directly with our public and private sector clients across the state. And many of you may know those folks. Excuse me. Tawanna Pittman is on that team. Saroon and now, see, this is why you don't start calling out names.
Right.
Kay Kimbrell is on that team, as is Sarah Milner McLaughlin. And then we've got Jonathan Johnson, who is leading in our business development arm of our work and out slaying dragons left and right to help bring in all the folks who want to be doing business with us. Sam Nadelli is leading in our strategic partnerships arm and helping us make sure that we are bringing all the assets that we have in order to take those tentacles out into the many different community-based and civic organizations throughout the state and beyond, who are doing great work at grassroots and grass tops and in the middle, in faith-based sectors, in community-based sectors, in business and economic development and racial and economic justice. Sam helps make sure that we not only understand those bodies of work, but that we're bringing our assets to bear in those spaces, and we're leveraging their assets in our spaces, because it takes all of us maxing out in our lanes. And Sam helps us do that. He also works in partnership with our consultants every day, and it's just a tremendous asset inside of our work. And then we have a team of analysts and analytics director, Nathan and Maggie, who lead in that lane alongside our consultants and our researchers. And we have Tiffany Wilson, who recently joined us and is leading in our employer education work and leading in our event space. And then, of course, those backbone leaders who drive in communications. Mary Beth has been with us for about 3 years, who drives all the things that you see, who touch your world, and help make sure that we're connected not only in media and events, the e-news and website and those spaces, and partner across the organization. I'm trying to make sure I'm checking all my boxes. Just so many amazing folks. And then, of course, our board, who is chaired right now by Ro Attaby, and those board members partner with us to not just lead governance, but also fundraising and anchoring all the great work that happens by our team and connecting us across sectors and various partnerships across, again, the region, the state, but also across the country. I work with an amazing team of folks who help our engine be as innovative and smart as it possibly can be, and I'm really grateful for that.
Well, Tawanna, you've done a wonderful job in painting a picture of a team that is robust, comprehensive, and capable. So good job, number one. And it sounds like it's a great team. You know, I wanted to close out with asking you to sort of share what you would share as marching orders for the community. What does the community do to both embrace and support this work? How does it realize its own benefit by being aware, number one, and then stepping up and supporting? What do you think?
Great question. You know, the roots of our work are about shared accountability. We, as I've shared earlier, we operate with a strong focus on data. We believe data informs the work, but that data, to your point earlier, historically data has often been used against our communities, and we believe that data can be an asset. That isn't just numeric data. It's also about the lived experience that we have. It's about how data and the work that is done inside businesses and government shows up in our lives. And so one ask that we have is share the stories, share the experiences that you have when you see your company. If we show up in your place and you hear that your company has hired us, know that we want to hear you. We want to hear from you. If you hear that somebody from our team is showing up to give a speech, know that we want to hear from you in advance. Don't hesitate to reach out to us and say, hey, we need a perspective before you show up here, because we need to be as informed as we possibly can, because the numbers never tell the full story. And we want to be the strongest partner in shared accountability that we can. And that's how we're successful. So know that piece and partner with us in those spaces. The other piece is, as we advocate for policies at the state capitol, in city halls across the region and across the state, and we operate from St. Louis County here to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and further, right, all across the state. We also need to be walking arm in arm together in order to drive policies in every single domain that truly start to change our lives, so that every one of our children has a different story to tell than we had, and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren have a different story to tell of the experience that they have in Minnesota. So we have to walk that out. We have to go fight for different policies and practices. And that's the work that we do. Much of it, what you see in the news, is very little of the work that we actually do behind the scenes. So inform us, give us that insight and intel. And then when we call, when we sound that alarm, you know, if you're one of those people who says, hey, I can come testify on a bill, I can come testify on an ordinance, let us know when you see those calls to action, because we always need and want more people, particularly folks who are workers, folks who are business owners, who are willing to come share that testimony about why we need more equitable wages, more equitable opportunities for investment coming, and why specifically those sectors of innovation that stress that opportunity, our mindset, there's no disparity in brilliance. There is absolutely no disparity in brilliance. And that means that we should be operating in each and every sector that exists, each and every one, because we were all given talent and brilliance in equal measure. And so the only reason that we're not in any single domain is a simple lack of opportunity because of past laws and current laws. And so we have to begin to break those doors down and create investment opportunities. So when you see us knocking those doors down and you have a desire to walk through them, sound the alarm, because we're more than happy to go push that door open and set a seat at the table so that you can walk through those doors and somebody else can walk right behind you and we can keep opening more seats.
What a wonderful vision. Let me ask if Angela Rose is still in the backstage. Is Angela still here, AZ? If she is, I want to bring her on just to get an update on what's happening with the strike. But if she's not here, she's going to be in tomorrow. I've been watching the school strike, the St. Paul's successful ability to avert the strike, but Minneapolis is really struggling with how to bring the sides together to bring everybody in alignment with its mission of serving children and families, and providing education. And so that's a big challenge. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Well, I want to close with you. You triggered another question in me, Tawanna, and you invited people that work in agencies and corporations in particular to be aware, and that when they see you or your team showing up, making sure that you've got the best information possible so that you can be as responsive to the opportunity and to the needs as you can possibly be. What I've seen, and I think you may see it too, is a rich desire of our people who are in corporations now to get back into the neighborhood, back in the community. I think people are focused on, even though I live in Plymouth or Woodbury or Roseville or, Eden Prairie, I have a connection with the people in North Minneapolis or in 38th, Street in South Minneapolis or in Rondo and St. Paul, because my history, my family, cultural experience mirrors that. If I'm here from here or not from here, I understand the dynamics of our communities and the challenges that these communities both reflect and still fight to overcome. And I see that our community, that our professionals are more willing than ever. And what's happening, I think what you're doing is creating opportunities for people to bring their A game, to focus on community, cultural challenges, problems, but you're seeing them not as problems or barriers, but simply as opportunities. And that's what business is about, is solving problems. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree completely. And I bring a lens to this work from my prior work I did in Omaha. We lived there for 9 years. And one of the roles that I had held was helping Mutual of Omaha and the University of Nebraska Medical Center and Kiewit and other companies revitalize historic Omaha by developing and then implementing a master plan. And that work was not about racial equity, but it was about economic vibrance and vitality, because Mutual of Omaha and the Med Center said, wait a minute, we haven't paid attention to the communities around us. We've just been focused on our business. And while we were asleep, the community changed and it's starting to deteriorate. And now we're trying to attract the very best talent. The Med Center needed the very best scientists and researchers, as they had built 3 tall campuses. And as they attracted people from across the globe, literally, folks were saying, I want to live near my job. I don't want a car. I don't want to commute in from the suburbs. And oh, by the way, this neighborhood is not good, but I refuse to live miles away and drive in. So what are you going to do? Well, they had to suddenly care about a neighborhood they hadn't cared about before, right? So it suddenly, we were investing hundreds of millions of dollars, but it couldn't just be about the money. We couldn't gentrify it. We had to go build the relationships inside that neighborhood. It had to be all in. We had to work with 11 neighborhood associations in order to say, you can't just come on top of them. You've got to partner with and go deep. And you can't do it like that because you haven't had those relationships. This is the same work. We were successful there. And I bring that lens to this work to say to companies, it's a both and. There's a win-win situation here, but you have to get ahead of it. And your best ideas can come from the folks inside your organizations, if you have them, who have had to check that identity at the door for a long time. And now you have an opportunity to say, hey, bring that here. Help us learn the things that we thought weren't important, but actually are going to be the most important thing in the world for us to compete in this new economy that we just didn't know about in the past. And now, if we really want to compete in the future, we have to say it's all one thing. It's not our philanthropy strategy. It's our business strategy. And we can really win the day by learning that right now.
Tawanna, such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for half an hour here and for the work that you do. Let's keep this door open. Obviously, we want to be supportive and help illuminate the challenges, the opportunities, and the successes of the Center for Economic Inclusion. Any last words?
A big thank you to you. I invite everybody to visit our website at centerforeconomicinclusion.org or our Facebook or Twitter pages. And please save the date for our upcoming summit on June 21st. We look forward to being back face-to-face with everyone and appreciate all the support the community has given to us. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's it for today. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.